All right. I think we're live.
Hello.
Sudden. Very sudden.
Yes, suddenly we're
Okay.
here.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Design Corner, the second ever Design Corner.
Yeah.
And last time we talked about a bunch of things, and this time we did those things.
Yeah.
We did them.
Feels good.
They happened.
Yeah.
Feels good. So basically, we are here because, as I'm sure you know if you're in the chat, we posted a big dev diary on FTL rework, removal of some FTL types, the addition of new FTL, reworks on tons of different things, and we also posted a big rework dev diary last week, and there is another one coming next week, so we kind of wanted to take some time to talk.
Yeah.
Explain some of the reasoning, field some questions, and show off a little bit of the internal development build. So,
FTL. It's a big change. Personally, I think it's very cool that we're actually doing this, because it's very rare for developers to actually like do these more radical changes in their games.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a sort of thing where you think to yourself, no, you can only do this in the sequel.
Yeah.
You can change this, but I also don't know if that's a good way to think.
I don't think so.
Because what you're doing is sort of, no, I can't do this. I can't make the game better because it's big and scary and it's a change, and you're essentially limiting yourself. You're hobbling your game to be less than it could be. And ultimately, it's sort of like, what is the difference? Because let's just say, okay, well, no, we feel like we can't get any further with Stellaris 1 because we are too limited by this.
Yeah.
And then we have to start working on Stellaris 2, which more or I just saw in the chat my microphone is not working, or
we're gonna take a look at that in a second.
Can someone in the chat confirm if they haven't been hearing Martin talk this entire time?
A couple people say that I'm very quiet.
People saying it's working,
yeah,
but
it's too quiet, is what they're saying.
Yeah, we're gonna fix that in a second. I'm gonna come in
cool.
there and we can hear you.
Okay, good. Anyway, so really, that the result of that would be that we kind of stopped working on Stellaris 1 anyway, except you would have to wait a long time for Stellaris 2.
Yeah.
And this is kind of Stellaris version 2.0.
Yeah, and we still feel like we have a lot of things to do, and
yeah,
by doing like radical changes in the game that we're already working on, it feels like we're taking responsibility more for what we're actually doing, and like we see that we can do a lot of things with this.
Yeah, we're just taking what's there and we're making it right, rather than just saying, oh, we give up. We'll we'll make a new thing in the future that will be like better.
Yeah.
So I definitely think this is the better approach, and I think that it is. This update is sort of where we take the sort of difficult issues and we solve them.
Yep.
And we accept the backlash that comes from solving them.
Yeah.
And from there we can move forward with a lot of interesting possibilities that this sort of opens up.
Yeah, because there's a lot of things that we have wanted to do for a long time that's just not really possible, and it doesn't really work that great unless we do these changes.
Pretty much. Just basically things like the static defenses, where we, as I posted in the dev diary, we have sort of been designing in circles, where, we have tried to solve, okay, how can we make static defenses work with this, and also this FTL type, and this, and we inevitably sort of come back to the beginning of, no, we can't, so we might as well just have systems individually defend themselves.
Yeah, and I think a big part of that is also like, in the end, like exploration is an important aspect of Stellaris.
Yeah.
And we're always gonna like think about like how exploration feels in the game. And I always thought it was weird that you can have control over something you've never been in, that's even on the other side of a galactic arm. You can't even go there, but you have ownership of that system.
And of course, the problem with that, and it's sort of like, for instance, the propagating border system, is that even if we kept that system, it still could never make sense for all the systems, because if the movement is so different, why is the, like, I mean, it made more sense for Warp than it did for hyperlanes, but it also didn't make that much sense for Wormholes, because, it propagated beyond this. And there's a lot of problems, like sensors don't really make sense for hyperlanes, because, okay, so they can't travel in Warp, but they have Warp sensors. And there's just, there's a lot of things that just don't really work for all FTL types. So they don't really work because the game just isn't built for it at all.
No. It's sort of one of those things that, like, I think sounds a lot cooler than it actually is in practice to have the 3 different types.
Yeah, it's like I like to talk about the comparison between Sword of the Stars, which is another game that did this, where Sword of the Stars is very much a game built around this because it's turn-based. The map has maybe most of 100 stars. Wars are one-on-one, which means that you have this hyperdrive, for instance, and they have wormholes. The only thing you have to think about is how the wormholes move, whereas how do your hyperdrives move. But in Stellaris, it's like, okay, I have hyperdrive, this guy has wormhole, his ally has warp, my ally has hyperdrive, my other ally has warp, and it's like, how are those fleets gonna move? You lose the ability to keep that in your head. You literally can't keep that in your head. You just it's just fleets moving.
Yep. And there's a lot of other like small points, like it doesn't necessarily make sense, like, you know, if when you're having allies and you're trying to do things more on like a galactic scale that's large, it's more like grand. You're supposed to have a lot of different empires that, you know, have different types of, you know, cultures and all that stuff, and making that mechanically work together when they're like trying to fight and making the AI understand.
Yeah.
Those are just minor points, but there's obviously larger things that I think we're going to talk about later, that like the cool stuff.
There's also a lot of cool stuff that this opens up. I would actually like, can we get smaller us? There we go. So we have actually booted up in the internal Cherry development version, which is, by the way, the hottest code of all hot code. Like, this is nowhere near release. It's gonna be full of temporary interface elements, bugs, issues, things are gonna look ugly. There will be non-final numbers, all the disclaimers that you guys are going to ignore so you can go rage on the forums.
Yeah. I'm not sure. Did you prelude the message of the stream being up by explaining what the FTL rework actually is?
No, I did not. So actually, let's do that and just very briefly touch on it, because I figure most people have read the dev diary, but... Okay, so last week we talked about Starbases, which I will be showing off shortly, which has to do with that you control systems individually. As you can see, our United Nations of Earth here is just one tiny little system. It's not a blob of border. And we actually only control Sol. We don't have any control over or claim to adjacent systems.
We have never been there.
We haven't. And we actually start with our home system a little bit built up. Because of this, we have our starbase here. We can do a lot of fun things. We'll show off soon. And we have some mining systems. We have some richer systems. You no longer serve your home system because we felt... It was like, when you start with the starbase around Star, it felt very immersion breaking that you would go build a large starbase, but you wouldn't, you know, survey the moon.
Yeah, but I always thought that was a bit weird. That, I mean, it's kind of good mechanically in the sense of like, you know, pacing for a player to start by exploring their own system, but it doesn't necessarily make sense that you, like, the game starts when you just invented FTL Travel, but you haven't even surveyed your own system.
And I mean, ultimately, it's like, it's gameplay over, which is why we kept it, because it's good gameplay to survey your own system.
Yeah.
But it's just, when you have the starbase, it's just too weird.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's just too weird. Also, it's good for like multiplayer balance that you start with a only semi-random amount of resources in your home system.
Yeah.
Because it means that starts a little more even. I mean, you still have all of the things you find around, so it's not like everyone starts perfectly balanced, but a little more balanced.
Yeah.
And anyway, the FTL rework is essentially that you no longer get to choose FTL when you design your empire.
No.
Everyone starts with the basic hyperlanes, and there's like more advanced forms of FTL that you can research. There are wormholes, we're hoping to find one, that you can find and explore and go through once you have stabilized them.
Yeah.
And they are like very long hyperlanes. For instance, there could be a wormhole in Barnard Star, which might lead all the way over here, or here, or here. You don't know until you've explored it.
Yeah, and other wormholes spawn in pairs. So there's basically like a pair of portals, basically. If you learn how to stabilize them, you can go through them, or explore them and go to the other side. So that basically, and like colony, you know, that the influence cost when you're expanding or when you're fabricating claims and stuff, that will also follow through. So like half of your empire can be on one side of the galaxy, connected through the wormhole to the other half of your empire in the other part of the galaxy, which is
exactly.
Cool.
You count as being bordering, which means if you have a wormhole connecting, you can have an empire split in multiple parts that's still properly connected, precisely because the wormhole is, you know, bordering, so to speak. Oh wow, everyone's very eager. So yeah, I am just showing off a little bit. So this is kind of, if you're wondering what the arrows are there for, it's kind of because of the way sensors have changed. We're experimenting with how to display surveyed versus unsurveyed, and in sensor range versus not in sensor range.
Yeah.
Because you no longer have the like, oh, I have this blob of sensors. So right now the arrows means unsurveyed, and it being white means it's in sensor range. Since we have the like basic radar system now, which only can see inside its own system, it can't see through other hyperlanes. More details on this in the dev diary, by the way. We only have sensor range in Barnard Star because we have a ship there. This is almost certainly not how it's actually going to be displayed in the release version. Just
it's a very recent addition.
Yeah.
We're still experimenting.
We're very much still experimenting. It's probably going to be something like we might keep the lit not lit for sensor range and have an icon for unsurveyed, or we might have an icon for sensor range.
Yeah.
We'll do whatever seems to make the most sense, because again, all of this is early prototyping.
Yeah, it was kind of funny yesterday when I asked you to try how it would work, like if the systems that were within sensor range were in caps lock.
Yeah, that was just like, no, this is gonna be terrible. And it was like, yeah, it was terrible, but at least you know we confirmed that was terrible.
Yeah,
as an important part of the design process.
Yes.
Doing bad ideas to confirm that they are bad ideas.
Yep.
And here's another one with that is actually we have killed Corvette exploration. You can no longer send. Also, Terra Incognita is being reworked. That's actually in the current build, but it's not uploaded to Steam yet.
Yeah.
So Terra Incognita has been changed from like where literally your ships are traveling to which systems have you visited. But yeah, Corvette exploration is gone. You now have to send out a science ship with a scientist to go into a system you have no intel on.
Yeah.
It can be modded back, but it's gone. But I never really liked the whole, oh, I'm just gonna take this and send my Corvette.
Yeah, split the fleet into 3 and then just explore the whole galaxy. Yeah, I always thought that took away a lot of the exploration feeling.
Yeah, I mean, you can send out a science ship with a scientist, but you're risking a scientist and a bunch of influence.
Yeah.
Which is way more than risking just one Corvette.
Yeah.
So, we are surveying Barnard Star. I'm gonna send the construction ship in. Because I kind of want to show how expanding works now. Instead of colonizing planets to, get the blob borders, what you have to do is something called build an outpost, which is the star bases we talked about in last week's dev diary.
That requires the whole system to be surveyed?
Yep.
I believe.
It does. There we go.
Now we should be able to,
Now, much like a frontier outpost, building a starbase costs influence, and the amount of influence it costs depends on distance to your borders. It will also depend on other factors like whether you're building a consolidated blob, snaking. We're doing a lot of balance things because I would like to avoid that you build it like, oh, I'm just gonna build it here and here and here and here and here and just ring in this part of space. It's all mine now. Not a fan of that.
No.
So I would prefer that if you do that, it costs. You're giving up something else to do it.
Yeah. Like other than the borders making more sense now, I really like you take more of these like micro decisions, like smaller decisions, like where you're in, which direction you are expanding.
You're clicking. You can't click
in
in a game.
Clicking.
Clicking is bad.
Yeah, we should just have everything be auto-controlled.
Yes. All right, and now you can see that we finished the outpost, and this grows. And unlike a frontier outpost, they do not cost influence. You do not have to pay influence for maintaining a system.
No.
But you do have to pay influence for taking it, which means that, as you say, where you expand is a really strategic decision now. Because, I took Barnard Star for these resources. I could have taken this instead for the colony, which needs to be in my borders now to colonize it, but that doesn't cost influence. And it's a lot like, okay, so maybe I want to expand over here for the resources here, but I want to expand over here so I can lock down this chunk of hyperlanes. You might want to prioritize grabbing a particular part of space. You might want to find like
2 choke points there on your
Exactly. If you expand quickly in this direction, you can lock down these 2 choke points and just have this part of space for yourself.
Yeah.
There's a lot of small, interesting strategic decisions taken when you expand now, instead of just, well, okay, my border grew a bit, I guess I have some new mining stations to build.
Yeah.
One thing and people have been talking a lot about all the clicks to build outposts, but personally I find that you're literally making a strategic decision.
Yeah.
If you don't want to make strategic decisions, it's sort of like, why are you playing a strategy game? If so, I think that I would prefer, like, if we're talking about just having to do less clicking, a better way to build mining stations and research stations would be good. I know we've been talking a lot about that.
We have. And we were discussing doing things like, you know, the starbase, for example, you know, building up the system by itself.
Yeah.
We haven't done that yet, but it's something we're looking into, because it would make sense, like, if you have the starbase in place, it starts, like, you know, building the stations in that system by itself over time.
It's definitely an interesting idea, something we're sort of thinking about, because, you know, you have the outpost and maybe they just build up over time. The question is, should that cost resources? Because one of the big problems with automation, with something that costs, is that people are asking, well, why don't construction ships have automation like, say, workers in Civ?
Yeah.
Here's the problem. Workers in Civ don't cost anything to build.
Other than time.
You just build maintenance.
Yeah.
Exactly. All they have to pay is time. Whereas if you had a construction ship that was auto, it would sit and pull resources from your resource pool, and you would have no control over that.
Yeah.
And it would be super frustrating. So you would probably have to design some sort of pool to give resources to the construction ship, and it's messy.
Yeah. No, then I would rather automate it through the starbase and then have the cost of that incorporated there somehow. But honestly, right now, when I played, I don't really think there's too much of, like, building, because you spend a lot more resources now early on by expanding. So you don't have as much minerals floating as you previously did. So at least in my mind, I try to prioritize where I actually build my mining stations and stuff first.
Yeah, so do I. I think it's definitely, and also I think that people don't realize that you don't have the sort of thing that happened with the old borders, where suddenly there's another system in your space that you don't have control, like that you didn't know, and suddenly there's like 16 new mining stations to build. Instead, you do things much more one system at a time.
Yeah.
Like, you claim a system, you take the resources, you claim a system, you take the resources, and because of things like the way the starbases work, the fact that they don't really get destroyed, this also ends at a certain point. When you move into the mid-game, you no longer have to, like, rebuild mining stations and things like that, because you take them over instead.
Yeah. Because something that's interesting, instead of, you know, having the border blob, like, grow by itself, you end up in a lot of situations where, like, this system that's like 2 or 3 systems away from my current borders is, like, very interesting resource-wise, but maybe it's not, like, worth me investing resource into you know, grabbing that immediately. Maybe it's worth going in the other direction, where I have 2 systems that I can immediately get to, like, build up, you know, instead of having you know, one mining station and then one again, and then, you know, 6 mining stations in one system. Maybe you just go for the one where you have 3 mining stations in each system. So, like, you go for a more, like, upfront resource expansion.
Yes. No, I definitely agree. To me personally, just playing with this, the early game feels a lot more interesting.
Yeah.
Because you are making a lot more choices, and you are making a lot more strategic choices about how to grow.
Yeah.
And it's super important for how the later game will play. It's like, you know, moving to intercept, take a system before someone else will take it. There's a lot more, I would say, interaction with other empires in that sense, because it's like they're growing towards something you want and you're growing towards something they want, but you have much more direct control.
Yeah.
Thinking about, where do I want my board with this person to land, which you can actually control now, because previously it was like, well, maybe I'll colonize a world and it will end up sort of like this.
Yeah. And another thing we've done is, like, because the concern has been micromanagement with the starbases. You would have to, you know, a fear would be that you would have to micromanage each system, sort of like a planet.
Yeah.
But we've introduced this mechanic called the starbase capacity.
Yes, which arose precisely from the fact that when we just first put in starbases, QA was like, you have to manage 50 starbases, this is awful.
Yeah.
Clocks fix. Which was not unexpected, to put it like that.
No.
So yes, we have a thing called starbase capacity, and we have these, like, level 0 starbases called outposts. This is an outpost. It can't really do anything.
No.
You don't interact with it in any way. It can build some defense platforms. That's the only possible thing you can do. If you really want, like, if you have an outpost but you anticipate that maybe you'll need to at least defend it against a raiding fleet, you can build a few defense platforms, but that's it.
Exactly.
Now, what I have here, which is accessible from Outline, is a proper starport, which is first real, like, starbase. And this counts towards my starbase capacity.
This is like the first upgrade level, and it's only the upgraded starbases that count towards the cap.
Exactly. So, and they count equally. So, like, it's only how many level 0s you have versus level 1+.
Yeah.
So there's particularly no reason besides the fact that increased maintenance and so on to have a level 2 starbase and a level 3 starbase, but it's definitely a reason to have a level 1 starbase instead of a level 2 starbase, because it doesn't use capacity.
Yeah.
Also, they are very expensive, especially the later ones.
Yeah, the upgrade costs for them actually makes it really interesting, because you don't have as much resource as you do in the current live version, at least in my experience. So it becomes a very interesting choice where, like, oh, do I upgrade the starport to a starhold here to the level 2 upgrade or whatever we call it, or do I do it in this system? Because both have their ups and downs. Like, do I want to upgrade it where I can fortify a choke point first, or do I want to build it around a colony, a system with a colony, so I can build the trading hubs?
Exactly, and this has a lot to do with how you can specialize starbases, because you can specialize them in a bunch of ways. Like right now, I just built a second shipyard. This means that I can now build 2 ships in parallel. And this can go all the way up to 6 shipyards, or with modding, even more. It's literally just a modifier saying how much you can build at the same time.
Yeah.
And you can build like buildings that enhance it in different ways. I don't have access to most of them because of text right now.
Yeah.
But for example, let me see if I have it right away. Yes, I do. So the space trading technology, with its glorious missing icon. This unlocks the trading hub, which right now just generates energy credits.
Mm-hmm.
We have been talking about implementing it in sort of a trade system in the future.
Yeah.
And these can only be built in colonized system, meaning you can't just build a trading hub in the middle of nowhere. And you can build an off-world trading company which enhances all trading hub modules.
Yeah.
Similarly, you have things like a building, like you have the modules, which is like what's on the outside of the starbase. It's what graphically appears on it.
Yes.
And then you have the buildings, which is like the interior of the starbase, the living quarters and things like that.
Yeah.
And buildings often enhance like the modules. So you can build, for instance, a starbase that's just full of gun batteries and missile batteries, and then use auras to make it an even stronger starbase.
Yeah, then you have buildings like the command central, command center. It's not unlocked yet because it's higher tech, but
yeah,
the command center would boost the firepower of all your ships in the system, because it's like coordinating everything with this sort of supercomputer inside the starbase.
Precisely, which means that you can have a lot more. You also have the defenses, which is like, I'm just gonna build some and then I'm gonna hacks. This is another part, is that one of the issues with the old sort of static defenses is that no matter what you did, you would only have one station, which could only have so many guns. And so we added the ability to build these sort of defensive platforms, that is like the old defensive platforms, except you don't build them in free space anymore. You build them as sort of an attachment on your starbase. And they form a fleet around it, and if you have like a citadel, the highest level, you can have like 50 guns on a citadel and another like 25 defense platforms with 4 guns each, and it's literally a fleet. A defensive fleet that can actually, defend something.
Yep.
Which is also a big deal with the FTL rework, is that once you get a certain tech, starbases get FTL Inhibitors, which means that once enemy fleets enter the system, they can't leave unless they make an emergency FTL jump or engage the starbase.
All starbase, upgraded starbases, I believe.
Yeah, upgraded starbase. That is correct. Not outposts. And this means that if you, for example, take this choke point and you build a, fortress here, if the enemy's coming in from here, they just can't just go, okay, I have warp. Woohoo. No, they can't just hop past it. Unless they have like super advanced FTL tech, as we talked about, with the jump drives, and those have their own issues. Also, they're highly experimental right now.
Yep.
The design for those may end up changing.
Yes. But yeah, since you have that choke point, and when you go into the system with an FTL inhibitor, you can't leave it by any means other than, using the return action to go missing in action.
Yeah. Or, like I said, bringing down a starbase.
Yeah.
So another fairly interesting thing with that, which we'll cover with the next dev driver, which I also wanted to mention, is that starbases, as I said, they can't be destroyed. So when you bring down a starbase, you actually occupy it. And this also means that you occupy the system temporarily. Which, there will be more details next week when we talk about War and Peace, but one of the things that this does, which I think is really cool, is that if you occupy an enemy system, you temporarily take over their research and mining stations in that system. Which means that you can actually do sort of raiding, where if an enemy is, overextended, if they don't have proper defenses, you can go in and seize a bunch of their systems and take the resources if the enemy doesn't have, a fleet in reserve to stop you.
Yeah.
And that's part of the things we'll be doing with Doomstacks, which there will be more dev diaries and updates about, because this is definitely something we are working on.
Yeah. And also now it will take a lot longer time to travel across the galaxy, space.
Yeah.
Because you have to travel in sublight.
Exactly. Let me show that actually. If I am going to the Corgus system. So here goes my fleet. And we're gonna work FTL to burn our star. So previously, once it hopped in here, it would just hop straight again, which meant that fleet movement was extremely unpredictable.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't really tell where a fleet was gonna be. You would expect that if they're going from there to Corgan, if you guard the Corgan hyperlane, you will stop them, but no, they'll just hop straight past you.
Yeah. And something I never liked is instead of chasing someone across a system, you would FTL to the next system and then FTL back, so you arrive on the right side of the system.
It was really weird.
Never made it.
And now you will actually have to go to sort of the entry point. As part of this, though, we have sped up sublight travel, and we have made advanced thrusters better as well, so that it won't be super slow, but it will still be slower, which also means it's more difficult to, have a single fleet defend a large amount of space unless you have prepared for that.
Yeah.
Also, a small thing I really like is just added this.
Yeah, there's a description of the system, what it's sort of intended for.
And what its purpose is. For instance, this is the outpost system right now. But I'm just gonna do this. Now it's a mining system.
Yeah.
It becomes a colony system, fortress system. It's just a small flavor thing, but I feel like the fact that systems is something you individually take makes them feel more special.
Yeah.
I mean, not every system is gonna be super special, but you feel like systems have a purpose. They're not just this thing that falls into your empire because a board changed.
Yeah.
It is your system that you own, that you control, that you have a little government office with some guy in a backwards outpost, and ore freighters are going there and going to the home lanes and so on.
Yeah.
And I definitely feel like we can expand on that in the future. Have things like little freighters going between systems.
Yeah.
Have a trade system based on the hyperlanes. There's just so much possibility open up by the fact that we now have predictable travel and geography.
Yeah.
There's just so many things we couldn't do that we can now do.
Yeah. But something I opened with is talking about how important exploration is for Stellaris. A big part of that is making the galaxy actually feel alive and interesting. The types of systems you find, examples is the types of star you have in a system should matter, because we have added the terrain now. For example, if you have a system with I believe it's a pulsar.
Let me open up the galaxy a bit, and we can see some examples. Not everything is final. These guys are not supposed to be separated, but you can see some examples of how borders also look when an empire is a little bigger.
Yeah.
We have Peacock Fallen Empire with their citadels and so on. And now, let's find a special star. Also, I'm gonna turn off TI. No, that's wrong. That's the wrong command. Oh, right. For some reason, TI doesn't work in the main build. I should go change that. Anyway.
There's
now it's gone.
There's a pulsar quite near
yes.
you, right?
Yes, there's a pulsar. So we have basically added galactic terrain, where certain star types will affect your system, and also nebulas will affect your system. So like a pulsar will actually nullify all shields in a system. Like we can see our corvettes here. They have 100 shields. Just wait for them to get there, because I don't think the instant move version works in this version either.
Oh.
Yeah, I should unlock some of those game commands. They would be useful to modders as well. And you can see it here, you can see it on the star, you can see it on the tooltip.
Yeah, because other the cool things we want to do is like, for example,
and now you can see the shields are down.
Yeah.
They have no shields. Nobody has any shields, which of course means that, for instance, you could build a starbase, pack it with defense platforms with lots of armor, and then say, hello, Unbidden, please come meet me.
Yeah. Other cool things we want to do is like starbase buildings, for example. Some buildings being locked, because like I said, the trading hubs previously, they are already like some sort of context dependent.
Yeah.
You can only build them in systems where there are colonized planets. And by the same token, we're probably going to have buildings that, maybe we have a, what's it called, a black hole observatory or something like that. You can only build this building in a starbase that's, orbiting a black hole.
But maybe it gets a lot of research or another benefit. Just more ways to utilize like interesting, unique systems, more variety. Every system not just being, oh, here's the resources and that colonizable planet, that's it. We don't care.
Yeah, because also, with changing the FTL to like we have written about in the dev diary, is that it allows us to do a lot more with the galaxy itself, like how we generate the galaxy map, like do more sort of islands or clusters that perhaps you can only reach by using the wormholes that you can find, the natural wormholes. Yeah,
definitely. Let's say, for instance, that we could take a chunk of the galaxy and we connect it by just one hyperlane or a wormhole. We put a fallen empire and a lot of precursor tech there.
Yeah.
Or another chunk of the galaxy where there's no empires, regular empires. They're just like space monsters everywhere. And there's an entrance guarded by like the space dragon.
Yeah.
Just things like that, where we can just do a lot more with galactic terrain. We could have things like, warp storms that blow in and shut down certain hyperlanes. We could have crises that propagate, like viruses that propagate along warp. Just, again, this opens up a lot of possibilities for us, and that's essentially why we want to take this plunge.
Yeah.
Not just because it will make the game better, like with the things we're doing right now, but because it also opens up enormous possibilities in the future for ways to just build on making the Stellaris galaxy a really interesting place to explore and be in.
Yeah, like, make no mistake, like, the radical changes we are doing and have been doing right now is not something we would do if we were not entirely sure this would lead to something better in the future.
No. It's also not something like, we are not going to, upset all the base, because this is probably, I'm not saying we're not going to rework things in the future, but the way this sort of reworks fundamentally how you expand and so on, I can't really see us doing it again, to put it like that.
No.
This is probably almost certainly going to be the biggest change in how the game is played. Like, maybe we'll, in the future, rework the tile system, or maybe we'll rework, how ships are designed in a particular way or something, but it won't be anything as fundamental as this.
No.
This is our, like, new core for the future.
Yeah.
Stellaris 2.0, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was wondering if, because I noticed we have had a lot of questions during when we were talking about the FTL Travel and stuff.
I was about to say that we should take some questions. So the problem is that if we say we're going to take questions, we're going to get bombarded with questions, but...
Yeah. Like, I could just check a question here that someone mentioned, like if it would be harder to expand.
I mean, to some degree, yes. To some degree, no. I mean, it costs influence to expand now. Previously, it cost influence to colonize. It really depends.
Yeah.
I think the pace of early expansion is slowed down a bit.
Yeah.
One thing we did do was to ensure that every system had at least some resource, because one thing we discovered by test playing is that it felt terrible to pay influence to grab an empty system.
Yeah.
Like, this is the sort of thing that you can never predict until you actually play. Because I was like, it's probably not a big deal. And
No.
then I actually played myself, and I was like, this is awful.
Yeah.
I don't want to do this.
Yep.
So
Loss aversion is a powerful
yeah.
tool.
So what we've essentially made is that the star always has some kind of resource, some energy or some research or something. I mean, Belgium is still a terrible system, realism in games right there, but it's not empty.
No. I mean, just seeing that small number is such a vast improvement over seeing nothing.
Yeah.
And I know, like, the thing I'm the most excited for with all these changes is not just the warfare stuff that we're, more talking about here. It's like the things we can do in the future with exploration, what you can find in the galaxy, how you interact with everything. That's the thing that I'm really excited about for the future.
Okay, so someone asked what border growth text will do now. This basically depends. For example,
you had an Ascension perk and also the Supremacy Adopt.
Yeah, they will essentially depend. Like, everything that doesn't make sense anymore will be swapped to something else. What it will be swapped with is different, and it depends on what you think fit, and probably it will change more times before the release. Like, for instance, Supremacy, which used to give border growth, now actually gives fleet command limit and naval capacity, so it's sort of an immediate I want to be able to have a bigger fleet rather than I want bigger borders.
Yeah.
But we've also been talking about putting naval, like star-based capacity in Supremacy rather than where it is right now, which is in expansion.
Yeah.
Because right now we have kind of made expansion the absurdly strong one again.
Yeah, because I sort of don't want having lots of upgraded star bases to be an expansion thing.
Yeah.
Sort of feel like Supremacy is where it should be. But yeah, to continue on that, the question with the techs, a lot of them have just been replaced with the starbase capacity. That's sort of like the most one-to-one swap, I guess, between border range increase and the new systems.
Okay. What happens with corvettes not being able to explore using gateways, natural wormholes? So, let's see if we can find a natural wormhole.
There you have one.
One right here. Oh, was there one closer?
Yes.
There. Okay. So, I just found another wormhole here, and it said we have never seen this type of natural formation before. That's because I cheated, basically, so I need to go into the system. And let me just check if instant move works. Probably not. Nope. Okay. Then we wait a little bit.
And such the waiting game begins.
But talk about the armor changes. What armor changes? I know nothing of any armor changes.
I can't remember.
Yeah, you can see here. Corvette, hull points 300, armor 50, shields 100. Just like before.
I think they've always had armor.
Yeah.
No, as far as I remember, we've always had armor in the game.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I don't know what the difference is.
I don't know.
We'll talk about it in the future.
There's a question: will we see more map shapes between elliptical, spiral, and rings?
Definitely at some point, absolutely. I think we have way too few map shapes.
Yeah.
Can't say exactly when, but it's fairly high on the priority list as far as I'm concerned. I would like clusters for one.
Yeah.
And more like divided, possibly like double enjoined galaxies would be cool. Just I think we had way too few shapes in general, so.
Because I guess it might be good to make it more clear that all the things we're talking about, changing the galaxy map itself, is not something we're working on right now, because we have another focus.
Yes.
But it will be something that we're absolutely gonna do in the probably not so distant future.
Yes.
But
some
it
of
would
it
not
might
be possible without
some
these
of it
changes.
might come with this update, but probably not a lot.
Yeah. Because that would also be it would take a lot of time to do properly. Because we want to do it properly if we do anything with the galaxy generation.
We tend to focus on we tend to try to make focused updates. Utopia Bank we focused very much on the internal politics of an empire customization. With the Chappic update and Synthetic Dawn, we focused very heavily on robots, everything to do with robots.
Yeah.
I'm sure at some point we'll do something very focused on making the galaxy a more interesting place to explore.
Yeah, because we listen to you guys, and we also have our own ideas, you know, from the team and from ourselves. We take all these ideas and like categorize them in different boxes.
Okay.
And whenever we do an update, we basically take one of these boxes and look what we have, sort of.
All right, so there's a question of how you can invade an empire that has enclosed borders with you. To be clear, when I say that corvette exploration is stopped, what I say is that you cannot go to a system you have no intel on. You automatically have intel on a system that you know is owned by another empire, which is at least low.
Yeah, and
You're
sensor range also extends it.
Yeah, sense range also extends it. You are not. It's not like you always have to go in with a science chip first. It's just that you can't immediately send out corvettes to go chart everything. You can if you have been able to find another empire, you will almost certainly be able to reach them with a corvette.
But if you have sensors, you can actually probably do that still, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because if you have sensors, you have intel.
Yep.
As long as the system isn't like, I can't show it off right now because I cheated, but can we switch screens? Okay, so it's only when a system is like that, like there is no name, it's covered in terra incognita, it's gray, and it says unknown. That's the only time you cannot send in another ship.
Yeah.
To be clear.
But so, for example, this ship had sensors, the first upgrade to sensors, it would also be able to see these two systems, and then you could do it. So it mostly prevents, like, you know, the first thing you do. We don't want you to split up your corvette fleets into 3 fleets and go explore everywhere. You have to research the sensor tech and upgrade the ship. So
yeah,
it sets it back a little bit.
You can, in fact, corvette explore once you have level 2 sensors, which is probably okay.
Yeah.
We might move back when you can research level 2 sensors a bit, but also I think it's okay if it happens to a certain point.
Yeah. I mean, all of this is super new, so we
haven't
really experimented
we have to
with it
see
yet.
we have to play test, we have to see everything is very much subject to change, right?
Yeah.
Right. What were we talking about?
All
right, we were gonna go explore the wormhole with the UNS Hawking. You can field another question in meanwhile if you want. Mr. Alberto Garibaldi is a bit slow.
It's a good question, I guess. With no empty systems and having to build star bases in every star system, will that make some nations... will make it so nations are generally smaller?
I guess that depends on how many empires you start the game with.
Yeah, but I don't think so in general. You don't feel like it's small. You grow pretty large pretty fast, and then you spend more of your resources trying to upgrade the stuff you have.
Yeah.
But that's still sort of a balancing issue, because we want obviously to feel good to explore and to expand. So if expanding is too fast by just building the unupgrade and the outposts everywhere, we're gonna tune that back a bit.
Yeah. So now that I appear here, I get a notifier saying we have found an actual wormhole. Now you can potentially research the Wormhole Stabilization tech, which is a mid-game technology right now.
Yep.
Once you have researched it, you can sort of explore research technologies. You can explore the actual wormhole. Yes, and it will say, require exploration. You will need a science ship to explore it. The science ship goes in and comes out in Voon, which is over here on the other side of the galaxy with a trader enclave.
It's a pretty interesting system to expand to, actually.
And now you can see that once you have explored the wormhole, you can see where it's connected, and you can go through it as much as you like, and it should automatically pathfind. So, for instance, let's take the Hawking, and instead of explicitly telling to go through the wormhole, I just say, hey, go check them out, and it passes through the wormhole.
Yep. But you need to explore the wormhole first before it will use the pathfinding.
Yes.
But I guess we haven't actually talked about the gateways yet.
I did write about it in the dev diary.
Yes.
And it's like, the difference with the gateways is mainly that they are like...
they're all connected
They're all connected to each other, though you can lock them down if you own them. Enemies can't go through a gateway you own. Think of it like Stargate, You have a field or something blocking it so that other people can't go in. So they won't be a big vulnerability if you have them in your own system. You will be able to restore them earlier and you can build new ones. Building new ones is like an endgame tech.
Yes. So you will be able to find gateways throughout the galaxy from the beginning of the game, but they will be like ruined or deactivated, and you'd have to find a way to activate them before you can use them. And when you activate the first one, it also activates another one, so you at least have 2 of them.
There we go. We have one right here. I disabled gateway. I'm gonna go ahead and steal this planet. There we go. Now you have a disabled gateway. I know it says megastructure and it looks like a megastructure, just to make it clear. Gateways will not require Utopia or any other DLC. Exactly how we're gonna solve that will work out, but it will be a free patch feature.
Yep.
And now you can upgrade and restore the gateway, and you can see that you have a completed gateway. And whenever you like activate the very first gateway, it will also automatically activate one other gateway, so that you never just have one gateway. And this can go. Oh, gateway has never. Hold on. Here we go. I have a science ship. Take over that. Yeah, the game is confused because I cheated pretty much.
So if you go out of the system and into it again,
I am gonna try that. Hopefully that works. Like, bear in mind, we will probably make like special exceptions for this so that it works with the cheats, but right now everything is in just get it sort of working iteration. Nope, it's confused. Right, because the gateway isn't ruined anymore, so it doesn't realize that I should be getting that event. Sigh. Hold on. Where did it go? It went to Asonits. Okay, let's go to Asonits. Let's own a burnt planet, which seems completely legit and doesn't involve cheating at all. Build a science ship. And that's also not ruined. It's fine!
Oh, you're lucky. You have one right next to
Okay. Listen, we're showing off extreme levels of competence here.
Yes.
And hot codes.
This has all been rehearsed, by the way.
Yeah,
We're just
totally.
We're just
pretending.
completely
We're just
incompetent.
pretending to be incompetent.
Yeah, it's all an act, by the way.
Oh, okay, sure. You can have a contribution. You can check for questions while I do. Okay, here we go. Now we have found a abandoned gateway. And now I can travel through Sonnets. If there is like multiple gateways, you get a little like multiple gateways potential targets. You get a small like menu to choose where you can go.
Yeah, you get a list of all the gateways that are active, so you can choose which system you want to
And
go
as
to.
before, it will automatically path through the gateway if that's the closest path. So usually you won't have to like go manually go here. Usually you just go, oh, I want to go to this side of the galaxy, and it will automatically handle it.
Yep. Let's see if we have any cool questions. Well, someone's asking about energy cells, but I don't know what
I think they're talking about reactors on ships.
Yeah.
And of course, reactors on ships, as always, is a core component.
Yeah.
The way it's always been.
It's always been like that.
Never been any different.
I mean, you can't run a ship without power, so obviously it's a core component.
It's very silly. You know, just like you always had the choice of multiple types of combat computers for each, and multiple ship roles for each type of ship.
Well, I remember we had that before.
Mm-hmm.
That's a detailed question. What will give Nationalist Seal to replace border growth? We don't know yet. That's a civic, and it's a minor detail that we haven't really looked at yet, but it's going to be something that's related to, protecting your border, sort of.
Yeah, seems legit.
Let's see. Well, will starbases engage ships from the entire system, or only when they come near?
Actually, that reminds me of a pretty common question, which is why starbases are around the star. instead of being built around the planet.
Yeah.
And the simple system is to keep it predictable where the starbase is.
Yeah.
Like, so you can always have an idea where it is. It also makes a fair amount of sense if you think of it in terms of how the hyperlanes are located, because ships will actually have to travel through the system now. So being at the center, it's the best place to defend. It's like simple. Yeah. It just works in that sort of. Like,
yeah.
I'm fairly certain we could probably mod it so you can build them around planets, but we don't want to keep it that way.
There's also a thing, if you built it around planets, that's a requirement that you could choose, then you couldn't build it through the galaxy map, which would be terrible.
Yeah, that's an issue as well. Also that, you know, if you had this giant thing over Earth, it would probably block out Earth, and it's just, yeah.
Yeah.
We did move it further away from the star because the glare was making it a problem.
Yes. Because you obviously want to see these new cool models. I'm not sure, have you shown the models at a fully upgraded stage? I think you upgraded the one in your...
Oh, that was accidentally upgraded to contingency core. Hot code.
Interesting.
Okay, let's not upgrade to a star hide this time. Actually, that's not supposed to be that way. I will have to look at that when I get back.
Those are not upgrades, by the way. Those are just supposed to be the Endgame Crisis versions.
Yeah, exactly. You cannot build a contingency core around your whole planet.
A Citadel is the max level for a starbase.
And we'll stick like gun batteries.
Hangar slots, hangar base.
We'll stick hangar base. We are going to very pointedly ignore the buildings. And yes, it can get stronger than this, definitely. Right now, I am not building it as strong as it can possibly be. I just want to show a powerful looking station.
Yeah.
Which has like a lot of gun. You have the hangar base. You have gun turrets, you have like the hangar base that will launch fighters. You have the little platforms with their own guns. You can design different platforms, so you can build like, you can build platforms with medium cannons or small cannons, interceptors, even more fighters.
Yeah.
You can have a lot of different things.
So the cool thing is, like, it's a sort of a mini game, like designing your platforms. Like, oh, do I want to have 3 platforms with point defense, 3 platforms with hangars and stuff? If you care about that sort of detail, you have that option.
You can design them very much. Or, for instance, if you're building as I was talking about earlier, if you're building a station around a pulsar, you can design it to have a lot of armor and, things that damage armor on the platform, so that you can take full advantage of the fact that nobody gets to have any shields.
Yeah, because the cool thing with, doing more unique things like this is, the time you build around a very important choke point in your game, and it happens to be a pulsar system as well. And when you upgrade that to a Citadel and you maximize, everything, you're gonna remember that game because you had like that fortress that was really tailored to defend that system.
Yeah.
And those kind of things are the cool things. That's like player stories. You just find something cool, and you do something cool, and you want to tell someone about it.
Yes. And yes, you can redesign platform, and also like these, the actual Citadel will keep up to date with components. So as you get better tech, they also become stronger. They don't because the only problem with like spaceports was they would just keep using the same crappy weapons.
Yes.
Which were good in the early game, not so good later on. And which slots they have depends what you build on them. So you can focus them very heavily on like torpedoes and missiles, or just have a lot of guns, a lot of fighter slots, etc. And they have layers and layers of armor and shields.
Right now, the starbase is doing auto design, and they update it every time you upgrade it or when you get a new tech and stuff. But I mean, depending on how that feels, that might also be something prone to change if someone is curious. But all the platforms themselves, they have ship designs.
Indeed. Yes. Oh yeah. Just because I want to show this off, because my favorite small change. Have you seen this?
Not actually seen that, I think.
You can see like, okay, this planet has pops that need buildings. The planet has clear blockers, which only shows off you have no space left. And this planet has buildings that can be upgraded. So you can see at a glance which planets in the outline need work.
Yeah. Do starbases have that yet, or is that?
No. That's the part we're gonna probably work on like next week.
Yeah.
The starbase to have construction bars and things like that, so
Yeah.
that they have all the information. Because right now they don't. I also want to make sure that by default starbases are kind of named after a role, or at least show their role here.
Yeah, they should.
So I wanted to have it be like Sol, you know, this is called a fortress system because I just built up the starbase like a fortress, and I wanted to say like Sver Fortress Citadel or
Yeah.
something like that. So you can see which ones your shipyards are, possibly sort it by how often you will need to interact with it.
Yeah. Something like that.
I think we're running out of time, so let's take one last question and then call it.
What's a good question? Let's see. I would like to prefer questions that are actually related to the FTL rework, probably.
Or starbases, but yeah.
Because I'm gonna guess like FTL or Starbase are the two big things that we had in dev diaries recently, and that's probably
Because there'll be more dev diaries coming, and we'll probably have more design corner streams. There's a lot still coming to talk about.
We have a really good question here, and the question is, what's a good question?
Good question.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. No, but I don't know. I'm terrible at finding good questions.
Will FTL inhibitors also prevent the fleet from leaving the system via wormholes that only work for hyperlanes? Good question, actually. I think right now it prevents all FTL.
Yeah, good question. Because actually, as I see it, both the gateways and the wormholes are sub FTL travel, so
Yeah.
it probably should work.
It probably should work.
Because I mean, you can't use a gateway into a hostile system anyway, so you wouldn't
Yeah.
be affected by it.
And the wormhole, you could only go back through the wormhole. You couldn't, keep going.
Yeah.
So that's probably how. Like, I'm not gonna say right away because actually we hadn't thought of that. So that's definitely a good question.
Yeah.
How we're gonna think about that. But I would say that it probably will work.
Yeah, because I mean, wormholes should basically work like these two systems are actually one, but you're just connected to this tunnel. So probably.
One more good question. How will planet's role change from now? So a planet is now way more about, this glorious barren planet with no... Let's not go to that one. Planets are now way more about the resources they can provide. Like, you want planets because you want population, because population gives you resources, they give you naval capacity, they give you starbase capacity, they give you research, they give you all sorts of things. Planets also can potentially, but let's get into the future, I kind of want planets to possibly be able to have FTL inhibitors as well.
Yeah.
To be able to build like fortress worlds that can lock down hyperlanes and lock down FTL along with the starbase, so that you have to send like a big army to crack it, or else you can't continue. But that's an idea. It's highly experimental. Not promising it's gonna happen.
Yeah, I just absolutely love the thought of like having, a fortress world.
Cardia.
Yeah, Cadia, exactly what I was thinking about. So hopefully that will happen somewhere.
But yeah, planets are essentially where your people. They give resources. You definitely want them. And we may have to readjust some of the tech penalty and unity penalty things based on planets.
Probably.
Since they no longer give borders, that's something I have in my head to look at later.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think we are finishing up here. So thank you everyone, and there will be more dev diaries. I think we'll probably have another design question stream in not
Probably.
too long.
Yeah.
And everything, you definitely didn't see any things you weren't supposed to see or anything like that.
I don't know.
That
what
didn't
you're talking
happen.
About.
And everything is the same with armor and power as always.
Yes.
Goodbye.
Farewell.